if you think about somebody that, let's say, hopefully this never happens to anybody, but let's say that you sustained major like third degree burns. That's a really good example where we can see it's like your body underwent such major trauma that your needs to recover from that situation just skyrocket. And so very similarly, it's like pregnancy, I think is probably another good one where it's like, that's a different scenario than like, oh, hey, we need to like go in and do something, right? So it's like, of course, it's going to depend. But I love what you said about just kind of waiting and seeing, because the way I kind of approach things personally is that I try to keep my nutrition as similar as possible the first like week or two after surgery, and that's with the major asterisk that obviously, if you're on a lot of pain meds, nerve blockers, stuff like that, you're going to be super nauseous. So I know when I had no surgery, that first week was rough. And it was like, I literally was just mostly sleeping. I was, kind of fading in and out. And so I just wasn't super hungry because I was just on so many drugs and so many meds. But, it's like, I always like to try and track my macros when I'm able post-surgery, because then I can make sure, okay, am I getting enough fiber? Because especially with digestion, when you're taking all the gnarly pain meds and stuff, it's like your digestion can get super, super bad. So, it's like, I always like to try and kind of hold the same pattern the first week or two and then see where things at. Because usually a lot of times when you have surgery, it's like, well, you might be on pain meds the first 7 to 10 days, and then you're getting off the pain meds, and, are you able to increase activity? Are you able to start going on more walks? Well, if so, again, it's like, yeah, maybe your nutrition might come down a couple hundred calories, but it might not be this, big drastic drop off like you might think. So I think it's actually cool because, like I said, multiple surgeries, I have tried to, track and monitor where I can. And so it's afforded me the ability to kind of know, okay, my maintenance calories are usually anywhere like 22 to 2,400 calories, just depending on how active I am. Hey, I know that when I have surgery, if I am just sleeping a lot, I'm not moving a lot, and I'm not doing a ton of activity, usually it's usually right around like 1,900, 2,000 calories for me. But then as I continue to be more and more active, as I continue to feel better and better, I'm able to just kind of naturally bring up food. And so it's equal parts like, because I love nerding over the data, I come from a place of curiosity, but then it also gives you the ability to trust your body of, hey, I'm hungry and I know how much I've eaten. I know I've been eating fruits and vegetables, lots of protein, all the things. Okay, I'm hungry. I just clearly need to eat more food. So I remember specifically when I got my boobs done, I tracked my macros that first week specifically. And it was 2 days after surgery. So like the first day I was just like super messed up. And then the first day that I was kind of like cognizant and awake, I was so hungry. And I think I was at like 3,000 calories that day. But think about it, because it's like a lot of times you're fasting, you don't have any food, before you have surgery, you haven't any liquids or anything. And maybe that surgery actually doesn't happen until later in the day. And then it just keeps going, right? So it's like a lot of times there is that catch-up period where your body's like, yo, I haven't been fed the past 12, 24 hours. So, again, it's like, dude, if I'm hungry and I'm post-surgery, I'm going to eat. But we just have to be careful. It goes both ways. That doesn't turn into a free-for-all either.
I think the difference with that too is like, that's kind of like the one day that's where you ate more because, you were fasting and then had surgery. And then arguably, your body is fresh off from going through trauma. So makes sense why your appetite would be higher. But I think like long-term, I think that's where it's really helpful that you track your food because you can self-monitor.
Totally. And it was the second blood clot that I had removed. For that one, I had to go through the ER. And so it was rough because my doctor basically said like, hey, when you come in the morning, like don't eat any food after midnight. So I got to the ER at 6 a.m. And then basically they didn't end up doing the surgery, or I guess I'll say procedure because it's not quite a surgery. But they didn't end up doing the procedure until 2. The procedure took like an hour and a half. And so it was like, a couple hours later when I come out of it and I'm like ravenous and super hungry. So it's just like kind of, again, just giving people the context of how do we listen to our body and honor that, but also how do we be kind of educated in the process too, I think is just super duper important.
Well, I mean, you got to think about like, what's the main fear concern here, right? It's gaining weight, gaining body fat. But the thing is that again, if you're self-monitoring, that you can see that, right? Like if you are tracking your food, if you are tracking your weight, or if you are looking at metrics like your body measurements and things like that, like you'll see like if you're changing in body size, and you can always adjust based on what you're seeing. I think the issue comes from, it's like if you're not paying attention to things and you have this surgery and then now you don't know what to do, that's where, I think people do react to like, well, I'm just going to cut all my food because I'm not moving. But that, again, may not be the appropriate response.
And I would say too, it's like, if you know that you're going to have surgery soon, what a great time to hire a coach, because there's just so many things to unpack there. Of like, I've definitely been on that side of things where it was like, oh, yes, I need surgery to fix my shoulder. But what if I get fat after? What if I like gain all this body weight because I'm going to be out for months and months? And so it's just so helpful to have somebody that you can like outsource some of those feelings, and just have a third party that looks at things with your training or with your fitness or as you're easing back into things to like tell you what you need to be doing or what might be a good idea to be doing, rather than it's like, again, well, if you're trying to navigate that alone and we start making decisions based off emotion, like what a potential poop show. You know?
Well, I mean, because it's happened before too, right? Like I've had clients that come out and reach out to me, and a lot of times I'm going over their history with them, and there'll be some time in there what's like, well, I got injured and, I stopped training, or I had surgery and then I stopped training and then I gained all this weight. But it's like, you didn't gain all the weight because you stopped training. You gained all the weight because the habits that you were doing were already conducive, and then you didn't adjust. You didn't change anything. And again, sometimes you do need to change some things, but this is again where it's like, you gotta look at and self-monitor and, make sure that, hey, like, what am I doing what I'm saying I'm doing? And then if you are, then if it's not going the way that you want, then that's where you got to make those adjustments.